Okay, let's straighten this out just a titch. There we go. All right. It's crooked. We'll leave it. All right. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company. Today is the 1st of November, 2024, actually, which is, there's snow on the mountains, there's fall leaves on the trees, and yeah, we're called In the Image Clothing Company because we are all universally designed in the image of our living God, who is Jesus Christ. And we discuss the skeletal system here. We don't talk about the fat content, which comes and goes. We don't talk about the muscle mass, which comes and goes. But we talk about the skeletal system and the natural position that the body does have, that we work out of and do everything from there. So, yeah, we talk about the body as it is, as it was before we came into this world and got altered through anything that is flat when our hands are rounded and our feet have their natural gripped arches. And clothing is the only thing placed physically directly on our bodies at all times. It's the only thing that has the potential to alter our bodies to that degree at all times that it's on us. If it's imbalanced or if it's unnatural materials when the body is natural, then it has the potential to just alter the body's natural workings. And it does in a big way if we don't address what we can within it. And that's what we do here at In the Image Clothing Company. So I've had a couple prerequisites since before I even founded In the Image Clothing Company, just to allow the body to have a chance to operate naturally. And what those are is to lace your shoes with the technique that we have for In the Image Clothing Company. And that includes just tying your shoes evenly over toward the inside. And all that does is allow your foot, all the bones and muscles and tendons and ligaments within your feet to just do their natural workings. And that's the only shoelacing and tying combination that there is that will allow that to happen. So pairing that with removing the tags from within those shoes and then up through the entirety of all the clothing you do put on your body, because what tags do is cause unnatural gaps that are only in the locations that the tags are placed. And then they're also, almost always at least in 2024, made out of synthetic man-made materials that the body doesn't want to have to ever come in contact with, but then they're placed within clothing, pressing them directly onto our skin at all times without us being able to not allow that to happen. So they need to be removed. Okay, so this video, I'm going to talk about one thing I say in almost every video, at least the recent ones that I've been making for In the Image Clothing Company, and that is the body's natural center line. I've discussed before that some people really do think that it's a belief because of yoga type communities that the body has a center and it's some belief or it's some kind of community to be a part of if you'd like to join that. No. We live on an earth, and the gravity of our earth pulls everything that's on it straight towards the core of the earth, straight towards the center of the sphere that is our globe. That's what a globe is a sphere. So when we talk about the core of the earth, when we talk about our core, as in the core of our bodies, the center, I have a video for In the Image Clothing Company titled, well, it's within the Truth Behind series, and it's titled The Truth Behind the Core, where I go into how we should have a naturally activated at all times core. And people are trying to train their core to activate, but the only way the entire body will work is if it's working as a whole and every muscle within it is in an activated position and constantly activated state. And that's not something to work up to. That's how the body would work until altered. So I'm going to discuss really quick where clothing needs to sit on the universal human design. Because the body is about the skeletal system, it doesn't matter your gender, it doesn't matter your height or your weight or your age. The skeletal system has to operate in the only position that it actually does. And so this is where clothing has to sit for that to happen, and this is where our clothing at In The Image Clothing Company will always have the intention of sitting when we do have our designs available. It will always be made out of 100% natural materials. It will never have any kind of tags protruding from the insides that you will have to remove. And clothing has to sit entirely above the hips for the pants, slightly higher in the front than the rear, and the top seams of the shoulders need to sit behind that little bone that's on the tops of the shoulders, and the edge seams should ideally be just right there at the very edges, because that's where your body hinges and pivots and moves. So when we discuss having a center line, there's a lot of videos that I've made for In The Image Clothing Company that relate to this. I have a video titled How Oversized Clothing Affects Body Mechanics, except that's not actually the real title. I got a little bit distracted. It's titled Why Oversized Clothing is Common. And that, an oversized shirt will just fall to one side or the other. And anything that's pulling our bodies out of their natural center line, being our sternum, directly behind that's the spine, and our nose, are the things that I mentioned within the body that are the center line. We have to stay there, otherwise the body's going to use excess stabilizing muscles within it to try to hold the body up, or we would just fall over on an earth that's going to continue to pull us straight. I'm going to address this really quick. I understand that I am at a public park, but I'm very obviously making this video, and this guy is very obviously trying to make excess noise right next to me when he has the entire field. So when I kind of freaked out a minute ago, it was like 20 seconds ago, I don't own this park and I chose this location to do this, but I was here before he came over, and he has the entire field. It's a very large field, and he's choosing to throw his frisbees right here. So I'm going to keep this because that's just absurd. I have no authority over this field or this location, but there's just many, many fields around, and he's choosing right next to me to throw the frisbees, and there's just no courtesy in that. There's a field there that's entirely open. There's baseball diamonds that each have 4 fields. There, and the rest of this field is very large toward that side. He's right here, so I'm gonna keep that within this video because that's just a little bit inconsiderate. I do not have any kind of authority over this park, but he could go anywhere, and I was already here. So anyway, if you look at my buttons on my shirt, I love that was included within this video, just because like that's ridiculous. I don't want to be entitled out of the words that I'm saying, because I have no say over like owning this location, but he has anywhere he could want to go, and he just wants to be all right next to me. The buttons within shirts need to stay centered, otherwise it's going to, what happens is the side that's underneath is the side that the shirt will rotate toward, and that'll twist your hips with it, and that'll take your shoulders, because anything that your hips do, your spine connects your shoulders and your hips. Your tailbone's at the base of your spine, which is right at your hips, at your pelvis, and your cervical spine is your neck, but the very top of that's the base of your skull, and so your shoulders, all the way to your head is the point, are connected to your hips. Yeah, the grunts are great too. And so anything that happens to your hips affects your shoulders. And if we're trying to stay vertical and straight, because that's the only thing that we can do on, with gravity doing what it does, we have to allow the buttons of our shirt to stay centered. I also have a video titled The Dreaded Collar Seam, where I'm going to mention this too. There's also a field over there where that car is that you can potentially see that's actually bigger than this field, and there's nobody on it. I love that that's included within this video. If I sound entitled, okay, but if you can see what's really happening, there's nobody else here. You could choose anywhere to go, and I've already been here for about 45 minutes to an hour. I filmed a video before this. That's just annoying, and I love that I'm addressing it, because I can sound however I sound. That's absurd. So yeah, I have a video titled The Dreaded Collar Seam, and there's a collar seam that's within shirts, like t-shirts, whether it's a short sleeve or a long sleeve, and there's that little seam that's up here that the collar bands a lot of times nowadays won't be just one continuous piece and they'll seam it together. I call it the dreaded collar seam because it's doing so much to the position of the shoulders, because it changes the entire position of those top seams on the shirt that it's on, and that affects your hips, it affects the arches within your feet, and it affects a lot of things within the body just because it is imbalanced. It's only on one side. So yeah, anything within the body that is imbalanced will pull us out of our natural center. And I've discussed before, to have an activated core, that's why I was discussing the center of our globe, our earth, we call it the core, right? Like an apple. And the only way the core of our bodies can stay activated is if it's centered. Because if something's pulled out of alignment, it's going to activate unevenly. And that's going to change really everything, the rotations within the body, within the shoulders and within the hips, all the way to the extremities, within the hand, the natural position that the hand would be in, and then the feet as well. So having everything stay centered is just the only way we're going to allow the body to stay activated in this naturally activated, turned on position of the entire body, the way that it would be until altered. So within pants, there's the zipper that's right in the center, and zippers have to interlock, as I've discussed many times. I have a video for In The Image Clothing Company titled How Zippers Affect Body Mechanics, and there's a modification that you can do to allow it to be even, which is what I've done within these pants. Also, if there's a button overlapping pants, because these things are right in the center that I'm discussing here, and so if they're different at all, it's going to alter the entire body left to right. The entire body, all the way to the extremities, from like the button or zipper within a pant waistline here. So buttons overlap, and that's how they attach, right? And that's what I was discussing with this, this rotating the pelvis. So having, doing what we can to take that overlap that can potentially twist the body and keep it straight and even, that's going to be the best case when it comes to anything that is imbalanced around the center of our bodies. So there's just anything that I've ever discussed within In The Image Clothing Company, modification wise, or just discussion within what clothing is doing to the body, if there's any type of discrepancy left and right at all, then our center line gets altered. And if it's just a little bit, that might not seem like that much, but every time that we breathe, we're training the position that the body's currently in. And really what that means is, if the body wasn't altered at all, it would just breathe in its natural position and the rib cage would be able to fully expand. The scapulas would be able to really get out of the way. Scapulas being that big bone on the back, right? They move out of the way to allow for expansion of the rib cage. And if there's anything that's imbalanced at all, each time your rib cage expands, which is many times a minute, and we don't tell our bodies to breathe, they just do it for us, right? I mean, our God is orchestrating all things, and our bodies just breathe. We don't have to make that happen. So each time that they are breathing, and there's so many muscles that go into just a single breath within the body, if there's even a very slight imbalance, like the collar seam, the dreaded collar seam, that's going to train the position that your shoulders are in. And like I said, with the hips affecting the shoulders will affect the hips. Everything is connected. And so that's going to just train you into a breathing pattern that's a little bit out of your center. And now in that case, now there's different activation of the muscles of your hips because your shoulders are moved out of their center. And now you're just going to get fatigued throughout the day because your body's doing everything out of a position that's misaligned. And so, as I was discussing, coming back to the core, having to stay in the center to activate, because like there's obliques on this side and obliques on this side. There's, your centered abdominal muscles that are on this side and on this side. And so if it's not all as centered as we can just get our clothing to be, while it's on us, right, then those muscles will just activate different. Because even just within breathing, the muscles within the diaphragm that are like opening and then contracting, right, to allow the lungs to expand and contract, those muscles will be different left to right if there's an imbalance, right? And so a lot of it is really internal things, like inside where your organs will sit. If your body's constantly a little bit twisted, your intestines will just be like sitting in a little bit different location than centered, where they would just naturally be, right? Whether that looks actually centered or what, but just weight distribution even within the internal organs that can move, you know, like down in the abdomen, for example, they will be altered, their natural position that they do sit in, because of the body's position that it has, like been trained to work in over time of patternings. So anyway, yeah, the body has to stay centered. Stemming at the feet being the foundation, when gravity is going to pull us down, the farthest thing down, just like a building, just like a tree, which is actually what my tripod for this video is, the lowest thing is going to be where our support is. And if there's any discrepancy within the shoelacing or tying left and right, then like from the left foot to the right foot, it's going to affect the entire body out of its center. And then again, that core will be activating out of a misalignment. So it can come down to anything at all. I just want this video, even though I've discussed a lot of this within other videos, I want a dedicated video to the body's natural center line that we can come back to look at and realize, yes, we do have to stay centered, otherwise we're fighting gravity constantly. Whether you're sitting on the ground, whether you're standing up, whether you're even sleeping to a degree, because just anything that's out of balance, because even though if you're laying on your back, it's still, if your spine's out of balance this way, now it's pulling down and back on you out of a imbalance, even though you are horizontal. It doesn't matter what position your body's in. No matter what, if we're on this earth, gravity is still having the same central effect on us that it always does. So, and I have a video for In The Image Clothing Company titled How Clothing Affects the Nose, where I discuss how the nose needs to be centered, because we do breathe through the nose. And there's two nostrils, and if that gets out of alignment, then as you breathe, different amounts of air will go through your nose, and that will change the way that your rib cage expands and the way that your body is being supported, trying to stabilize through breath. And I've discussed the jaw all the time, just meaning many times. I have videos dedicated just to the jaw for In The Image Clothing Company, but as well, just within other videos, I've discussed how the jaw does stabilize the entire body, and that's one of its natural functions. And the trachea, this tube that food and liquid and air go through, I have a video titled How Clothing Affects the Trachea, but the trachea affects the jaw because it goes through the jaw. So we just have to stay centered. Otherwise, it's not just one or two things within the body that could potentially get affected a little bit, but as I always discuss, if anything within the body is not working correct, then something else and many things have to compensate just for the reasons I'm discussing here. And so, yeah, we just have to stay centered. So another thing is, when people are doing workouts, and I've discussed how we shouldn't have to stretch, really, if we're just allowing our body to do what it was designed to do, we shouldn't have to work out to get up to a capability to do what we need to do, because we only need to do what we need to do. And really the body's designed and set up to do that. And so if you are working out, though, people do like to run. I've mentioned how running is very damaging to the body. It's not an opinion, even though that's very contrary to what you might hear in modern 2024. If you go back, people didn't run in the past the way that they do now. Running is a community type of thing. It's a lot of social media type influence goes into why people run. There's a lot of reasons why people do run. Also, just the body itself. If it's in such a misaligned position, it might feel like exercising in the form of running would help your body, but it's actually very damaging, because just impact after impact after impact through the entire body. All the discs of your spine, every joint within your body, all the muscles are bouncing in a way that's just very unnatural. So when people do run, because people do run, it's really is damaging to the body universally, but there are people who do run. I would never recommend running ever, which is funny because they're actually getting ready for a race, a physical running race right here. That's why there's leaf blowers. They're blowing the leaves off this track they've made. But when people are running, if there's any kind of imbalance or discrepancy within their clothing, that impact that I'm talking about, that's just so damaging to the body, universal, is just so amplified out of an imbalance within, stemming at the foundation of our feet. If you are tying your shoes any direction that is not evenly over toward the inside, you're taking your entire body into a twist and now impacting it over and over and over and over and over again. So we have a center line and we have no say over that. We have to stay within that to the best of what we can do. Otherwise, the body's getting just beaten up in everything that we do, even if there's no impact involved. So yeah, that's why we have the prerequisites that we do, because yeah, if there's tags within any side of the clothing and not the other side, tags at all will alter the body. But then if there's an imbalance, now you're just being forced out of your center line. Your core is not going to be able to activate evenly, and your entire body, all the way to the extremities, is affected. So it can be anything. It can be as simple as the pant cuffs or the sleeve cuffs. And I have videos for In The Image Clothing Company titled both of those things. How pant cuffs affect body mechanics and how sleeve cuffs affect body mechanics. So yeah, no matter what it is, no matter what part of the body it is, if there's anything placed on it externally that is imbalanced in any kind of way, it's going to alter the body's natural ability to stay activated in its natural centered neutral position that should just be allowed to happen, because that's the way that our living God designed the body to work, because he also designed the earth and it has gravity, and that's just the only way we're going to allow the body to even really do, like actually do anything. Otherwise, we're just forcing it through life in like a hobbling imbalance. That's just what's happening. So I'm going to address real quick, I don't know how much of these leaf blowers that came in for this race that they're setting up was kind of like coming back at me for getting a little bit upset at that guy earlier, but I had every right, not that I'm entitled to something, but to kind of get a little bit upset about that. I mean, I don't know if you know how many fields are around here, and there was nobody here at that time. Right now there's only these few people. There's probably about 8 or 9 people raking these leaves and blowing the leaves off of their running course. But that guy was just some guy throwing his frisbees right next to me, grunting, just to be seen within my video. So it's not about me. I don't want to sound entitled, but the abundance of fields that are entirely open is unreal. There's a field on the other side of that ball diamond, and there's 1, 2 diamonds there, 4 here, 4 there, that are all empty with a big field. And then over there, past those trees, there's a field that's larger than this one. Nobody was there, and you can see, at least, I mean, it's very open. So no matter how big of a deal it seems like I'm making out of that, I'm gonna leave that within this video. Condemn me all you want for like condemning another human. That was very inconsiderate when it was very obvious that I was filming this video and he's got all the room he could possibly want. So yeah, I mean, I had already been here for, like I said, at least 45 minutes before then. So yeah, call me entitled like all you want, but just the case of the situation, that was just such a strange thing to have to deal with. So anyway, yeah, I'm glad that that's in here. I'm glad that my like complaint in a sense is also in here, just because I'm authentic, transparent in this. Like, I just thought that was really ridiculous. So Anyway, if you think that I'm out of line for saying that, cool, but I'm saying that. So it's the 1st of November 2024. My name is Evan Strong, the founder of In the Image Clothing Company, a clothing company that is so much more than just a clothing company. We have In the Image Clothing Company podcast where we discuss the gospel of Jesus Christ. You can find that where you find your podcasts in audio form, as well as, at least up until the last one we had, was also filmed and placed where you find In the Image Clothing Company videos. So check those out. And yeah, the body has to stay centered, just like anything. Just like a building, you have to keep it vertical. Just like a tree, it has to grow decently vertical, otherwise it's going to get blown over in the wind easier, or the weight that it like builds as it grows is going to just allow it to fall easier if it's not quite centered. So just because of gravity, the universal human design, and unless you do have, which is fine because we have, you know, things that are unique to us in certain cases, amputations for example, let's say you don't have an arm, okay, we address that, we work around that, but still the core of your body, meaning not only your physical core, what we think of as the abdominal muscles, but the core meaning like the center, like torso of you, if you are alive, that means you are breathing in some way, and your rib cage still has to expand and contract like I was discussing. You still have to be able to do that without training an imbalance to the best of what we can do within our own situations. Meaning, even if you do have an amputation and now you're imbalanced weight-wise, physically, literally, you don't have an arm on one side, well, that's fine, but we got to do all that we can for every situation within the specifics of what that is, because you're still going to breathe. And if you breathe with much more weight on this side than this side, because there's not even an arm there, your breathing patterns is what we focus on. I mean, you can have whatever with your body that's unique to you. We're humans, we got our own things, but we got to address what we can to allow us to still just continue to operate the best that we can within our own situations. So, yeah. Anyway, this was a very surprising video, like, to me. And I'm not upset about the video at all. I'm not even upset about the situation, but I'm very glad that I showed my frustration within what happened, because yeah, I think it was pretty obvious, even to the viewers, whoever you are that is watching this, if anybody ever watches this, that he was quite close to me intentional. That's the whole point. I'm not getting upset at him for having fun at the park, but it was intentionally right here. I'm gonna turn the camera just a little bit so you can see how large this field right here actually is. And there's, like I said, all the fields around that I discussed. So just a little bit inconsiderate. And I'm gonna point it out and be very clear about it. So, okay, thank you.